exemplify the best, I think, of American entrepreneurial spirit. We really do. I have to be honest, I'm not a professional public speaker. I'm not a politician. But since I am a teacher, I'm going to kind of fall back on what I know, what's familiar to me. So you're going to forgive me if I talk a little history. We're here to celebrate the raising of our country's flag for the first time in an official ceremony on this incredible, magnificent flagpole. Jeez, that is a tall pole, and that is a big flag. It is very appropriate for a ceremony to be conducted as we approach the celebration of Veterans Day on Monday, the 11th. And I would like to address some of my remarks to the veterans in the crowd. Like I said, I'm going to talk a little history now. About 2,400 years ago, the great Athenian general and statesman Pericles celebrated another type of Veterans Day. The Athenians, like us today, were locked in a long and bitter war with an implacable enemy. In his famous speech, Pericles reminded his listeners of the unique nature of the place they were fighting for and for which some had fought and some had died. He reminded them that their state was not a state that imitated others, but served as an example to others. An example of a democratic state where equal justice under the law was the rule. Personal excellence, regardless of wealth or class, was extolled, and government administration was in the hands of the many, not the few. To protect their homes, the defenders of this state had, and I'm going to quote him here, compelled every land and every sea to open a path for their valor, and had everywhere planted eternal memorials of our friendship and our enmity. Such is the place for whose sake these men nobly fought and died, because they could not bear the thought of losing it, and for which every one of us who survive should gladly toil on its behalf. In ancient Athens, every able-bodied male citizen was required to own armor and weapons and be prepared to defend his city from his enemies. This was the key responsibility of the multitude of civic responsibilities that Athenians had and took very seriously. Their large round shield they carried was called a hoplon, and the citizen soldier was a hoplite, he who carries a shield. And when the hoplites stood shoulder to shoulder with their fellow citizens, their shields interlocked, they formed a phalanx, an almost unbreakable wall of protection for themselves and their city. And as long as they faced up to their responsibility and they stepped up to take their place in the shield wall and keep faith with their comrades and their fellow citizens, they were, in their day, all but invincible. Pericles' words for the Athenians ring just as true for Americans thousands of years after they were spoken and thousands of miles away from where they were spoken. Since the founding of our democratic republic, generations of young Americans have picked up their shields and stepped up to take their place in the shield wall that guards our country. Our forebears did it. People here today have done it. And many of our finest young men and women are doing it as we speak. They have picked up the shield, the heaviest of all the burdens of a citizen, to protect America, their country, because, in the words of Pericles, they could not bear the thought of losing it. Today we're celebrating the national symbol of that country. And this is a very, very big flag. It reminds me very much of the first time I was in the Smithsonian Museum of American History in Washington, and I saw the flag from Fort McHenry. If any of you have ever been there, you know what I'm talking about. It is an actually gigantic flag. It is the actual Star-Spangled Banner. And I thought, when I saw it, that is a big flag. And it was supposed to be big. It was to be so big that the British besieging Baltimore in the War of 1812 would have no problem seeing it and knowing it, that as it flew over Fort McHenry, that the fort that guarded Baltimore Harbor had not surrendered. These men and women have forged a kinship, a bond, not based on blood, but based on shared commitment among free citizens of a free country that their nation will continue. And the bonds of comradeship and of brotherhood and sisterhood of all those who serve will take their place in the shield wall. Stretch back to the south of our country and unforeseeably far into the future. As we're approaching Veterans Day on Monday, we're also approaching another significant event, a milestone in American history. On July 4th, 2026, we will celebrate semi-centennial, our 250th year of existence as a country. And I have no doubt that this very, very beautiful big flag we've been flying every today, and all passing on the highway, that the daylight of the studio still holds after 250 years. And all those driving by on the highway and that is saying, wow, that is a tall sidewalk, and that is a big flag. And they will know that here in New York, in the heartland of America, and in the Ozarks, the heartland of New York, that the Star Spangled Banner yet waves over the land of the free. And we're going to be over time.